Welcome to the Shropshire Lads podcast, where a bunch of simpleton hobbits talk about things they don't fully understand. On this episode, we discuss films, eugenics, and climate change. Enjoy.
What films that have got critical acclaim over the years and are meant to be very, very good do you think, hang on a minute, that is an absolute pile of turd?
Right, who has seen Get Out?
No, I've not actually.
Have you heard of it?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Jordan Peele film. It was his first big film that we'd caught on. It cost bug all to make. It was harrowing. It won loads of awards. It's a really, really, really good film. So then after watching that, I remember thinking like, that's like a new director, new guy, new mind, if you would. I'm going to track this guy. And he did a film called Us. And it was This Is Us. And when it came out, it's the film that me and my wife went to watch. And watching this film, we realised in 8 years together, we hadn't ever been to cinema together.
Wow.
Yeah, which we didn't actually realise until we started sitting there going, oh, last time we came was and then you go, hold on, and you start checking your dates, you go, well, that was with an ex maybe, and this was, and it got a bit awkward, both of us, to be honest. And then so we literally sat in, I thought, what's John Peele got here? And I'd seen a trailer. It was the single shittest film I've ever seen in my life. I've never been so close to walking out the cinema in an actual rage, and the amount of times I tutted, sighed, huffed.
Has it got good reviews?
Yes. And that's what really pissed me off. I went to watch it just after opening, and they were going, oh, John Peele's done it again. And I was going, oh, okay, maybe. I went to watch it, and it was absolute fucking flaming garbage.
Oh my God.
And it's really singed me as well, because I was quite like, oh, you know, I don't like new things because they'll be shit. And it's really annoyed me.
Yeah, you actually made an effort to follow what he was doing.
Yeah.
But then as well, I think what then tagged onto it was more so than when me and my wife were like, oh yeah, you know, what bloody hell, we've been cinema together, and that became like a weird moment. Like, oh, this could be
And we'll never go again if this is what happens.
That's literally what I said since. Yeah,
It's been ruined.
I'm gonna ban it from films I like Deadpool. I'll never come see Deadpool because it'll be terrible.
No, I felt like similarly, and I don't know, it's like it's almost too controversial to say, but Black Panther I didn't think was as good as the acclaim it seemed to get.
I enjoyed it, but I think it caused more of a cultural movement that made it popular.
Yeah, there is that element to it.
Because
definitely.
it's basically a slavery film.
Yeah.
And that lots of in American football, you know, there's lots of free Wakanda celebrations they do and things. And even in Premier League, a lot of footballers. There's a guy that used to put masks in his shorts when he scored. He put a mask on like Spider-Man, and he put a Black Panther mask on the once and things. And lots of people do the free Wakanda.
Maybe it's more of a cultural thing than it is.
I think it's
like
a good film, but I
movie.
think it resonated more to a certain audience. It gave it a bigger lift.
Yeah.
Like Miss Marvel's not gone berserk. It's
Yeah,
not a bad
that's
film.
true.
But I think because literally Black Panther was a superhero and a slavery film combined, it really boomed.
Yeah, I definitely get that, but you know, you look at
I mean, it wasn't that good as a film.
you look at the reviews and they are through the roof. It's like, again, going back to the best things of the last decade, it's like, I think I saw a Rotten Tomatoes thing where it was in some of the best, one of the best films of the decade.
It was up for an Oscar. It broke the mold, didn't it? It was a comic film up for an Oscar, which you were like, Jesus, hold on.
Like, talking of the Oscars, like every time I bring this up, one of the first things I mention is The Shape of Water, which was Best Picture.
Still not seen it.
And Jesus Christ, save yourself as much time as it's on for, because that is an absolute travesty of a film. It's like, did they release nothing else all year? Because if they released nothing else all year, that was the only film, it still shouldn't have been Best Picture. It was that bad. And when that followed on from Spotlight, which is a hell of a film, you really, really want to watch that.
Let's see that as well.
That's a fabulous film. It's incredibly well acted. There's some brilliant performances in it all round, and of course it's based on a horrendous true story, and then you see this about a woman who falls in love with a fishman mutant alien.
Spoiler alert!
Whatever the thing is, it's not a spoiler because you're not going to see it. Don't worry.
She falls in love with Abe from Hellboy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
It's just an absolute travesty. It's the worst Best Picture since Birdman, which was equally as shit.
Birdman.
But I can't really comment fully on that because I've never got past 20 minutes
I think
of that.
the Oscars are pretty much a nepotistic sort of circle of
Yeah.
people where it's about who deserves it this year, who's liked by everybody.
Yeah.
It's about hot topics like, you know, at the moment it's all about the empowerment of women and
Yeah, that'll be film. That hashtag Me Too next year
like
will be the
Green
biggest
Book
film.
won the best picture, and that's like basically message, don't be racist. And it's like, yeah, we kind of
We already knew.
Yeah, well, it was a bit like that with DiCaprio, wasn't it? It was like, well, he's gonna win this year because he's. But I thought that he was good because people are moaning, oh, he didn't say that many words in The Revenant. No, but
Isn't it a
didn't need
remake
to.
of Winnie the Pooh?
He didn't need to. It was a what?
Was it a remake of Winnie
A
the Pooh?
remake of Winnie
Late
the
night when he got the horn.
Pooh. When he started rogering Christopher Robin.
I didn't say it was a good remake.
It was factually accurate.
Home video.
But you know, I think that's you got to take the Oscars with a pinch of salt, where it's just like
You do, but it
Well,
is.
you're right. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they pick out great performances, and
yeah.
It's just like the Eurovision.
yeah.
Whoa.
Well, the Eurovision is more,
Great
isn't
work.
it? Segue.
It's a segue. It's a segue.
Into music.
Eurovision is
No.
more, isn't it? Because you already know you're not getting.
It's political
Jack.
as well, though, isn't
Well,
it?
it's unabashedly political, and the best thing about Eurovision, well, it was
not watching it?
it was Terry Wogan's.
Yeah.
And Graham Norton, to be fair, has continued that on fantastically. And it's just, they do what we're doing now. They get drunker and drunker and drunker through the night, and then they just call it as it is. They're brilliant because they're like, well, we know what's coming here. And they won't go, oh yeah, this is wonderful, this is doing really well. And
It's just got
they'll
predictable.
it's who cares? Because we're never going to win it. It's not actually a talent contest, because if it was, some of the times we do quite well because we've sent decent people. You know, we sent Blue in a few years ago, and Lee Ryan can sing. He's got a great voice, and we're never going to win because we're not Europop trash crap. And
Well, I mean, even if it's been written to be that poppy, it's still
then you
won't
get
win.
Scooch performing it, and it's, or Gemini and
Cliff Richard went
Gemini.
in Eurovision 68 and 70 and came second twice. Cliff Richard's a probably billion.
Yeah.
Song
Yeah, but
artist.
back in the 60s and 70s, we weren't quite as
Hated.
Lulu
hated as we are now.
Yeah, but Lulu came joint first 69 with
Puppet on a String one. And
yeah, with the Netherlands, I think Italy.
Brotherhood of
Yeah.
Man one.
And they had to put a thing in them that you can't tie winner anymore.
Because what was the
And then
last
Cliff
one?
Richard came out the next year and was like, hey, it's me again, guys, it's Cliff Richard. And he came second.
Yeah.
Got piped off immediately.
Because we last won in what, 97? Was it Katrina and the Waves?
Yes.
Let Love Shine a Light or whatever
Yeah.
it was, and we've been hated ever since. I think we were liked because Euro 96 was quite a successful tournament, and then after that it was like goodbye.
In fairness, there have been absolute dross.
Oh no, there's a lot of.
There is some that you're like, oh come on, we didn't even try there.
Yeah, Gemini, mate.
Songs that are just bad.
When they couldn't sing.
Yeah, but don't they tend to write them to be trashy?
Yeah.
That's the issue. You're writing for the audience, and like that woman on the other ear, the chicken song, whatever it's called, like that woman. You know the one I mean? She had all like, the Chinese
I genuinely
like
don't.
cat in the background with a golden hand. waving
Oh,
down.
right,
Do you never see this?
I don't think I
Have you
did.
seen
I
this?
think I think
don't
people
know.
having a different
Chorus
sort of
was I'm not
experience.
your toy, I'm not your toy. And there's a bit where she breaks into like a chicken song. She goes back, 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 back. There's the wings, everything. She romped it. She absolutely romped it, like 100+ points. She smashed it. Was she Lithuanian? Not sure, but it was so off the wall. Whereas the UK put in like generic,
Like a well-written pop song.
Well, yeah, but we don't. They're not even that
No,
good.
not good,
Because I
are
hate
they?
to say this, my wife watches it and it becomes a whole thing, and I then have to watch the damn thing. And I've seen it enough. I've never gone like, oh, we've done well there. Quoi? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
it's
No,
not
quoi.
a point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Quoi?
because the French refused.
But no,
to
that's
speak
why I
English.
agree. The original point being Wogan was great with it, and then Graham Norton got onto it and did the same thing quite well.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a well-treaded tire now, though.
Yeah,
It's
well,
that sarcastic.
It'll
like,
be
dry.
Rhinum next. Rhinum with the big teeth. It'll
I
be
think,
him next. Going like.
that's a call. That's a shout. That will
That's
be.
a 2020 shout.
It'll be him next, won't it? Just being like quite a funny guy, bit I'm sexual, bit homoerotic, and then like he'll get a few sherries. He'll go, oh well, oh bloody hell, these are. And then public go, it might as well be. The public go, oh, isn't he funny? And you go, oh great.
I wonder what. I hope that there are other presenters that are as beloved as Wogs and Norton are.
Well,
I'd love Peter Kay to do it. He'd be great.
No, but like
What
with
the hell's
other
that?
countries, can you
What the hell's
imagine?
that? Oh, I see.
Imagine like Italian one.
Yeah.
Hey, no, because they're just.
Babbity-boobity-babbity-boobity.
Babbity. Number 4, black. No point.
Oh wow!
Jesus.
And then, can I also just say, on the topic of Peter Kay, fuck you, Peter Kay. Absolutely fuck you, because his comeback tour, literally, I got my mother and father.
I knew you would have had tickets to see it and he didn't do it. That was the only way.
Yeah, so literally, I had accrued tickets for my mother and father-in-law for that comeback tour gig, couple of gigs, 5 gigs, 4 gigs, and I got them whilst we were in a bloody church. We're not religious, but we were in a fucking church, and I was like, Tex, you got tickets? I was like, oh my god, this is going to be the bomb of Christmas presents. This is going to... I was like, done. I was like, ding, done. This gives me 5 years grace and me a twat at least. And then what happens... It fucking cancels the whole thing, and then I can never now tell the in-laws that I got them that amazing gift because I
Unless
didn't do
they're
that.
listening to the podcast.
Well,
But they're not.
so honestly, I was fuming. So fuck Peter Kay. All I can think of is I think the guy probably had a really bad tragedy, which obviously if he has, or an illness, to him or his nearest is horrible. So when I say
But you
fuck
have
Peter
just
Kay,
spent 10 minutes saying fuck you, Peter Kay. Yeah,
yeah, because the
Yeah.
knock-on effect.
Sorry if
is
some
fucking
member of
massive.
your family's been ill or somebody's died or something, but
Yeah, but that happens every day.
fuck you, stop paying
Well,
80
yeah, but
quid
it does
for
happen to people
tickets.
every day. So you know, and the guy.
Did you get a refund at least?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, actually, no. Didn't I mean?
I think maybe you're being a bit harsh on
You
Peter
know what?
Kay.
Actually, no. I think they kept some fees, and I was pissed about that. But it,
How much? £2.40.
like £7. Fuck, £2. Yeah.
wow. Kay, what are you doing, Kay?
Was
No,
it
it-
ever really that funny?
No.
Yes. Oh, he was.
No.
But he was.
Listen to the very mixed response.
The show was funny.
Yeah, it was, and I would. He's not necessarily to me a stand-up comedian in the same sense as he doesn't. He's more observational comedy, isn't he? He doesn't really tell jokes. He's a fantastic observational comedian for older generations. The stuff he says when they're all like, "Oh my god, we've done that." All the stuff at weddings, all things like
Big
that.
like garlic bread.
Phoenix Nights, hilarious. Max and Paddy's Road, absolutely hilarious. The amount of people who've told me I need to watch the Car Share or whatever it is, but I've never seen it, so I can't say.
Exact same thing, but I don't want to because I don't think it looks funny.
It's meant to be brilliant, and I should really want to see it because I've loved everything else that he's done. And to me, his delivery is fantastic. The way he delivers.
Yeah, you're right
He's
about
like-
the
he's so
observational
funny.
thing. He is good at that.
He
I
seems-
think but I think what he did was he got lightning in a bottle. He observed a lot of what families had in the late 90s. The garlic bread, turn the big light on, loads of silly little
Yeah,
things.
you're quoting the same show. It's the Top of the Tower.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
basically like a band. You've got your whole life to write the first album.
Yep.
So the first album is just perfect.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's perfection.
And then it was like the difficult second album was the second show where it was
Yeah.
a bit like he just played songs and went, doesn't it sound like is she saying that? And it's a bit like, ooh,
Yeah.
running a bit short. On
The transgender X
Yeah.
Factor contestant thing was
And
like a
you're
whole
like,
what are you doing?
It's a bit Guns N' Roses, like Appetite of Destruction, and then it kind of went, oh.
Yeah, not sure what they're doing.
Anyway, back to films. They had this big stuff that you've seen and got like being literally deflated.
I always mention 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a terrible film. Terrible film.
Well, I will defend that.
It's as a film, it's terrible. It's the cinematography is fantastic. 68, and it still holds up now. That still looks good now.
Well, he did film the moon landing as well.
He did. Whoa.
Allegedly.
It's still it's like amazing, like
Visually.
like,
Fabulous.
Like the way the new Star Wars films are amazing visually. There's just no story. The acting's good, great
It's not
acting.
even- it's-
Well, I
In
think
the new Star Wars, is this?
Yeah.
Because I've not seen
Yeah.
the latest.
We're not going into it too much.
but it's just
not.
a mess.
Yeah. Well,
Lot of
Fucking mess.
2001. It's one of those ones where you think. Like Apocalypse Now, they always say Apocalypse Now is one of the best war films ever. And
You love it.
The first time, spoiler alert, stop.
Oh.
First time I watched it, I thought this is a bit shit. I didn't really
Too
think.
hyped.
I didn't really think much of it. I thought, well, let's watch it again then. And then I got it the second time, and it's like, well, watch it again. You're like, oh, hang on a minute, this is fantastic. This is really good. Because I always think war films wise, I much prefer Vietnam War films. I like them. I prefer them to it's a World War II or anything like that. And I tried watching 2001 a couple of times, and
Yeah, sometimes you need to
It's
give it a
just-
second
yeah,
round.
yeah,
Just to.
because you know what's coming, don't you? Then and it's like
This is going to shock you.
it's terrible.
So a film that I've had the exact same experience with, that is true to both our hearts, is Anchorman.
Oh,
First time I watched Anchorman, I know that is nowhere near 2001, but you know.
2004 actually.
Oh, well, there's a fact. First time I watched that, I was like, oh, this is just a bit silly and it's not that funny. But then second time round, it was like,
But Anchorman 2 is one of the shittest songs known to Anchorman.
No, that was good.
it's got some funny.
I don't think it's one of the shittest films.
I'm going to level with you on Anchorman. I agree.
Oh.
The first time I watched it, I got it on DVD when I was in university, and I sat in my room and watched it, and I thought, that's alright, this. And then I watched it with a couple of my mates, like, the next day or whatever, and we all sort of laughed at the same bits. And then it gets funnier and funnier, and you watch it a lot, and it's like, oh, actually, this is great. But the first time I watched it on my own, because there was no sort of other laughter around me,
Yeah.
I just sort of went, yes, it's alright.
I'd just say that Will Ferrell suffered some saturation, that he made loads of films and about 3 are good and 20
And
of
it's
them
the
are
same
terrible.
person every
Yeah.
time.
It's the Sandler effect. Seth Rogen had it quite a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's had a better success rate, but not much more.
For anyone who doesn't know, Anchorman had the greatest edit in film history, I believe. That's an opinion.
Baxter.
Because we've watched what the original script was, and that film is diabolically shite.
Oh, you've seen the actual
Isn't
full...
it? Remember when we watched it and it was
Yeah.
You
Oh.
watched the original script.
It was basically all the cut scenes and the original plot was awful. Really, really bad.
I have heard this.
And me and Mids just watched the whole Anchorman and then we went, oh, we'll watch all the deleted scenes, and it was like all the film as it was supposed to originally be cut. And it was absolutely made no sense, not funny. And the guy who edited it was a genius. 'Cause
Wait,
he
so-
just,
hold on, was
he's
there no
basically
new
Mids
footage?
doing this. It's just like he picked out the tiny bits of good.
But was it, so there was no new footage, but it was just edited
No,
better?
it's all. So basically,
all
they shot.
scenes.
They had a different story,
Completely.
and they shot it in its entirety.
But they rehashed that film to be the film we now know.
In parts.
See,
not
this time gets me
entirely.
on the old DC Schneider Cut issue, because the whole... If the DC movie, the Zack Snyder Cut, could be this different film, I kept going, well, it can't be.
Stranger Than Fiction. Have you seen that?
No.
That is actually a really good movie. I think that is really underrated for him. He plays the same character he plays in all his movies,
Plays himself.
but except it's a really dark humour kind of vibe going on. So he's this really silly, lovable character, but it's a really dark film. And that's really worth watching. Out of all of his films, that's probably the one I'd say.
Because I've not seen that.
No,
I've
I've
heard
not.
of it.
Really good.
I have
I
heard.
think I've heard the name.
But I think that's why it's not as well known, because he's not as funny. You know, he is funny in his own like endearing way in that film, but not like laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
He's not really that different in himself, but
But then
it's really.
But then,
it's
like,
dark.
Sherlock Holmes came out, it was like one of the worst films of all time, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
What, with Will Ferrell?
Yeah, him
One
and
of-
John C. Reilly with Sherlock
They
Holmes.
they've done a Sherlock.
Sounds
I don't
good.
even know.
Mate.
Sounds good.
Rotten
As-
Tomatoes, it's like a 1% or thing.
It's a
Will
it's an
Ferrell's heavy
IMDb.
eye makeup, but it just looks like a train wreck. And then obviously, Kira came out and went, "What have I just paid to watch?" It's meant to be one of the actual worst films of all time.
Oh,
Well, one of the actual worst films I've ever seen that's made me actually go on the internet and look at reviews before I ever go to the cinema. I went to The Happening. It was what's the guy who did
Mark Wahlberg. Oh, not Shyamalan, is it?
Shabbalama
It is M. Night Shyamalan.
Shyamalan Ding Dong.
It is M. Night Shyamalan.
But it was so bad. I did the start of tutting out loud and groaning. I groaned I never groaned out loud. And Zoe Deschanel and Mark Wahlberg, great actors. But in that, the script is so stiff. I thought they'd thrown a chair on the set. It was so wooden. And I was just like, it was just like so. I was just like, Jiminy Gillicus, man, this is what? And then I went back in the car with two friends, and one friend who was just like, let's go to the cinema and watch this. And I said, before I went, oh, this has got bad reviews. It's got really bad reviews. It's supposed to be terrible. And he was like, oh, don't worry. And it was so bad. It was like, oh, that's the worst film I ever watched in a cinema. And then I was like, right, I'm never going to watch a film until I get reviews off the internet. and that was the moment, the happening. I tutted out loud and groaned. I groaned.
Well, I watched Sex and the City 2. I got dragged by the ex-missus to watch Sex and the City 2 in the cinema, and that was unbelievable. It was quite racist in parts as well, and it was shocking. And then later on in the week, a few of our friends were going to the cinema, and they said, we're going to go and watch a film. Do you want to come with us and see it? And I said, yeah, go on then, I've got nothing to do, I'll go to the cinema. And it's like, well, read the review, because it's probably not up your street. It was called 4321. And they said, probably not up your street. I said, I don't care, we'll go to the cinema, we'll watch it. I sat down and I was 5 minutes in and I went, I can actually get up and leave right now. I don't care that I'm going to lose out on the money, I can leave right now. But I was sat there was 2 girls and a lad, and I was sat with them thinking, and they did tell me, so we'll just sit there and we'll watch this. And much like Watson, I wanted to do the old, oh God, but I just sat there and I just went, oh, it's fine. It's terrible. And then when the film finished, the one girl stood up and went, well, that was shit. And we all thought the same thing, and I have never seen anything. I saw the 2 worst films I've ever seen in my life in the cinema, paid money to see both of them in a week, and that was fucking...
It's a bad week.
That was an atrocity. It was there's four female friends, and they all get caught up in a diamond heist, and it is basically the same, 48 hours from each of their points of view, and it's trying to be a bit Pulp Fiction, it's trying to be a bit Lock, Stock, and it is fucking terrible. Jesus Christ! I actually recommend you see it, just so you know how bad it is.
It's that bad.
It's so bad. It's worse than bad.
Have you ever been scuppered by a film that's been out for a while that they don't show trailers in front of?
Ooh.
So this happened to me with Happy Feet, you know, the animated penguin film. So me and my girlfriend going to see that because we had nothing better to do. It had been out for a while. And you always think you got 15 minutes or so after the showing time, because they're gonna show like a half hour of trailers and adverts and all that sort of shit.
No way.
So we got in there maybe like 10 minutes after the showing time, and the film had started. And spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen this film.
It's too old to, don't worry.
But what happens at the beginning is the reason why the penguin is special is because the egg gets dropped when they're swapping it over. So like the female penguin and the male penguin have to swap the egg without it touching the ground. Otherwise it can get like frostbite and die.
And not Happy Feet.
Yeah, and in Happy Feet, the egg does land on the ground, but they scoop it up and manage to sort it out. But that's why he ends up like a crazy dancing penguin. But we turned up after that scene, that pivotal scene. So the whole time it's like the whole premise of this movie is that he was dropped on the floor as an egg.
Oh, you thought he was just a bit of a fruity penguin.
Oh my
Stop
God.
dancing. Why is he always dancing?
It was just unbelievable.
Back on if we're staying to films, the 20 decade and things, the Joker film. Have you seen it?
Yep.
Stokes, I think, is going to have an opinion, because I've
seen it?
Yeah.
I live on the internet, so I've heard all the reviews.
Have you seen it though?
Yeah,
Okay.
And obviously it's got mega hype, because I'm mega hype, so it's almost overhyped. I think if I had not seen,
getting bad.
I knew everyone was saying, "Oh, this, it looks good now," and it was good, but because it'd been so overhyped, I was expecting, something that probably could never be delivered.
I thought it was phenomenal. I generally thought it was phenomenal. Like, it left me thinking. It was slow. It was poised. It was such a good film. It was one of the best films I've seen since Fight Club. But I think weirdly they have similar themes.
You're not allowed to talk about that, though.
Like the invisible friend and things like that. So there's a little bit where I don't know if that's just my own psyche, but I loved it to pieces.
I totally agree with that. As a film on its own, incredible.
Loved it.
But the issue I've got with it is and this is only really for nerds, but the character building of it. So the Joker this whole time has been built up as a criminal mastermind who's calculating and clever and doesn't overreact to things or respond to his emotions quickly. Whereas in that film, the way he's played is the exact opposite. It's like, you know, immediate reaction, which goes against everything that's been built up in the character prior. So on its own, it stands up as a phenomenal film, and I agree with you. But in terms of the character development, it breaks it.
Like, we can go into a little bit. So, like, when he snaps, shoots down the train and they're bashing him in, and that's a trigger point, a flashpoint. And then when it comes to when he's on the chat show, he's still as fuck. So I think that's his mini evolution moments. Like, it shows you how he gets there very quickly.
But
these barrels are smashed.
when he gets into the fridge,
The Boris Johnson.
no, the Joker gets into the fridge, he imagines everything else in the film from that point on.
See, no, I still think
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, I think he still also killed his neighbour.
Well, that was implied, I thought.
Nope, because they came out afterwards, and apparently they came out and said that he didn't kill a neighbour.
Apparently, there was a scene that was cut that was supposed to be pretty dark.
And also,
But it implied to me.
in watching it,
I felt like that.
everyone kept saying it was like, oh god, it's got a few scenes that make you want to vomit.
No.
I know the one it is where they think it's really bad when he gives the guy a good head smashing.
Are we really that surprised by violence in
Yeah.
any medium these days?
That's
I mean,
what
come
got me.
on.
Well, they were
You
a bit
played
like,
Doom.
No.
How have I played Doom? How
Doom.
have
No, I said you played
Exploded.
it, so it's like when you. It's just like you're so sensitized to it. It's almost like
Yeah.
No.
it's just like that's just happening.
You could it's almost at the point where you could see something real and not be
Yeah.
that bothered by it. It's pretty terrible, don't get me wrong, it's not a good thing, like
It's like
that we're
the-
that used to violence,
the
but
shows we saw in Prague, where I was just like, this is weird, but it doesn't feel as weird as it should feel.
yeah, we have been hugely desensitized, and that was like, oh, that was unbelievable experience. We probably shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, I think you should, definitely keep that
But
one.
no, I'm totally with you on that. We
Why
were
were you
sat
like-
there smoking a cigar, like, is this normal?
I was looking at you
You don't
guys.
feel
like,
that weird?
this just feels surreal.
Oh, it's so weird.
Anyway, but yeah, the Joker film, I think.
Loved it. Sorry.
I think it was interesting because it was like a different take on the
But
whole
what
story
annoys
you've
me
heard.
Yeah.
is the people have been crying out for a second one, and he went, "Oh no, I've only written this one," and now he's gone.
The
But
money.
Wacky wants to do
Money!
another one, and you're like, "Oh, don't please."
I think it's nowhere near as good as The Dark Knight, though, from a Joker performance. I know he's on the screen a lot longer, but I think Ledger's was a lot better.
I think it's two very different performances, and I still swear if Ledger didn't die, you wouldn't get as big.
No, I don't care for that.
And he is.
that thing. In my point,
he was great, and I
personal
think
opinion,
he really broke a mould of the
it's
role.
fantastic.
But I think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is actually more like the Joker
Because
that I think of from comics and things.
well, he looks more like him. Yeah, I mean,
Nobody acts more like him as well.
Joaquin Phoenix.
And he's tapped.
He's a brilliant actor. When it was like he's going to play the Joker, it's going to be good, because he's good in everything. Even in films like Signs, he's still good in it.
Gladiator.
And he's great in Gladiator. But
Yeah, but
can
his career did drop off. He hadn't done anything for
yes,
a long
but that's because,
time.
as you said, he's tapped. He doesn't like.
He made his money.
He just.
You're about to say the point that he led you up from like a teen icon to like a dark.
Well, I mean, did anybody see that coming?
No, but then he also killed himself.
Well, yeah, I know, but that doesn't. That's got no. That's
His
no
performance is incredible in that.
Oh, it's
But-
stunning.
I think who on earth went? Yeah, well, I reckon he'll be the Joker. Who cast that?
That's what I'd say. The casting.
I know, of course, he had to. He probably went through an actual audition for that, because he probably turned around and went, "Oh, well, I can play it," and they went, "I don't think you can."
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think he was a teen icon.
I've
wasn't
seen
he?
you in A Knight's Tale.
Like 12 Things I Hate About You, and he was some floppy-haired surfer looking dude, and he's probably getting stuck with the brush of like being like, Dawson's Creek style. Like, he clearly put himself in a situation when he was doing that role, because he kept the diary, didn't he, as the Joker?
Yeah.
As he then was getting really drugged up a lot with, weirdly, one of the Olsen twins, which I still find fascinating.
Yeah, but that's just PR? Surely that's PR.
No.
But it's also
She was an accomplice to his death.
I
wasn't she?
think
She got like pinched
there was-
for it.
What?
He went method basically and went, what's it like to be on that sort of
Yeah, he's.
social edge of like not caring and
Yeah.
which one of the three was it?
Wait, it's two Olsen twins.
No, there's three. Was it Mary,
good.
Kate, or Ashley?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Midges Puncast. Oh, God. podcast of weasels and ferrets.
I started off and I was like, hang on a minute, I've forgotten what their names are. I can't actually.
Anyway, one of the Olsen twins, no, she got indicted because she found him dead and then left because she took all the drugs away that she'd helped him acquire. So no, Ledger went full. It was full committal, and also it might have been perfect storm of that. He might have been going through a bad time of life and whatever.
Maybe that's why it was
Batman,
so good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So Batman didn't necessarily make him that way, but I also think that he didn't make himself that way for Batman. I think he might have been going on a bit of a dark.
Wow, when you stare into the abyss, sometimes the abyss stares right back.
Eugenics.
Here's something. The Chinese guy who got done for eugenics. He basically tested an AIDS-resistant gene, and he had 2 babies created with this gene to be AIDS-resistant. He's gone to jail for doing it without following the procedures in China, because he basically claimed he'd done it. And China have jailed him for 3 years for breaking all the scientific laws.
2 things there. 3 years, and then secondly, does that then mean he was about to inject them with AIDS to test if it works?
It's doing CRISPR, which is a sort of gene therapy where it can just turn off certain genes. So it basically made the kids resistant to AIDS.
AIDS proof.
But he basically wasn't prepared to wait for all the red lines and things you had to go through to do it. So just went, I'm doing it. And because he knows that, well, they sent him to jail because they said he was claiming for fame because he wanted to be the first person to basically test it on human beings rather than wait and do it on mice, and then he just went, I can't wait around for this. But the thing is he right to do it? Because it's him doing it out of turn, it's meant to save lives.
Well, the question is, has it worked?
That's my point. Are they going to inject the children with AIDS? I don't want them to.
Are they actually AIDS proof, or are they
So hang on,
has he committed a horrific...
Twins.
There are 2 children in the world currently that are alive.
They're twins, so they were born from the same biological
His
mother.
children?
No, it was... people obviously were either desperate enough to do it or willing to do it.
Okay, so it gets a bit darker now.
Because
his kids.
I mean, it's not dark if you went, I can make your children AIDS resistant.
If you could make the human race AIDS resistant.
But then the problem is, if it works, the problem with all eugenics, it's about where do you stop the line? Because you say, okay, we'll just take out all the really suffery things, like Huntington's can get out,
Parkinson's,
Alzheimer's, anything
dementia.
genetic. But then you're that becomes the line. And then you're well, where does the line move forward from there? Because someone might go, well, boldness, I don't want my kids to be bold. And it's just turn that off.
Yeah, I suppose it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Because you can say, it's not suffering in the way Huntington's is a terrible thing that everyone would be yeah, that's got to go. But then you're well, where does it becomes a bit slippery. Where
I don't quite like
my nose.
Yeah,
and I don't want my child to have a nose like me because I don't like it. And then it's but the problem is then everyone's kids get edited because you're just basically going through an RPG.
Yeah, it's like Star RPG.
Just want to design my kid, but then no one will be tall or short because everyone will want their kid to be average.
Yeah, good height.
6'2" will be every man will be 6'2", and every woman will be 5'7".
I don't know, because I'm 6'2", and you're probably about the same height.
6'1", yeah.
And it's a curse. You don't fit in airplane seats, bus seats, cinema seats.
But
you get a bad back.
But you're more
eternally.
Attractive. Not you, but you're more attractive.
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with tallness.
Clothing, the sleeves aren't long enough.
Sleeves aren't long enough
constantly.
Well, here's the question. Imagine you could edit your child now. You can't say...
I'm having one.
Yeah. But I say to you, she's going to be a girl.
Yeah.
And you can edit her height. You wouldn't make her short or tall. You'd make her the middle, wouldn't you? Because you don't want her to be tall or short. You want her to be
It's like video games where all the characters are exactly the same height. Like in Destiny, nobody except Shax. He's the only one who's
imagine
tall.
that, there's no ugly people.
No.
So I've got 2 things there. It's basically, but now this mad scientist, are they going to inject the children with AIDS so we know? Is my first question.
I think it's more a case of the scientists will be able to tell if those genes that he intended to be on are on,
because
or if they're
the
off.
point being there is if it works, then he's sort of a marvel. If it doesn't work, then we've just given some small children AIDS and fucking.
No, they won't give the children AIDS.
No, but like what he's suggesting is as a test. You know, as to see if they are actually AIDS proof.
So you're now fireproof. Walk into a fire. Well, you've got to prove you're fireproof.
The idea
Only if
is,
you're Targaryen.
but he's basically done it as something that's not going to change their lives massively. They'll just be able to look at their DNA and say, I wanted to change that to an AIDS-resistant gene, and I've done it. Which means, in theory, it works.
Also, how did he do it? How do you know?
It's it's called CRISPR. It's just about editing. It's a simple way of apparently editing
simple.
Gene. Well, in terms of biological progress, it's something we can do now.
And a follow-up though is he said at the start that he's been given 3 years in prison.
Yeah, the Chinese.
So
government.
playing God is 3 years. What do shoplifters get? Year and a half.
Well, that's the thing in China. There's quite severe punishments for even things that we wouldn't consider quite. So 3 years is kind of like quite lenient, but it's because he just ran through all the red tape and goes. They're claiming it's because he just wanted to be the first person to do it, to get his name in lights and say, because he was confident it worked and he could do it, so he was like, I'm not waiting around.
It's incredible.
You've got to be bold as a scientist.
I'm not against that. That sounds terrible. I'm not against, because if he's got it right and he's going to be the first to say I've got it right, then good, because he's got it right for the better of humanity.
But am I a bad person? You're totally right about the slippery slope, because there's a lot of like medical research that came out of Nazi Germany from concentration camps that would have twins, because twins are like the perfect kind of experimentation, because you can really see what something's doing. So there have been a lot of advancements that were made from that because there were no restrictions on it. So it's that balance of like, that's quite clearly wrong, but we've had some benefits from it. This is exactly the same sort of situation. It's like
on the predisposition and the sort of picking out how tall your child is, how small your child is, whatever and whatnot, on the current fatherhood route, there's a reason that the trusts we're at the moment don't offer to let you know the gender of the baby. Normally you can find out, you have to pay them after to basically, they see it and say like, if you want to know, give us 40 quid and we'll let you know. It's pretty bizarre it works. But the trust we're in, obviously trusts become like counties, so even though the NHS blankets, they're on different areas of trusts. And we were told by a midwife who used to work more predominantly in the main Midlands area that because you can have an abortion up to 24 weeks. Now, you have a 12-week scan and a 20-week scan, so you see your baby twice in that time, and you can have an abortion up to 24 weeks. And they said they refused to give away the gender to people or offer the chance to, because there's a huge populace of people that were aborting babies, find out they were girls. And she did put the finger slightly to a certain credence, but that might have just been a sample size of where she was and things like that. But she basically said that no, we just don't offer that choice anymore, because at 24 weeks, which we've not gone past, like, it's the size of a cauliflower curled up, and it's something like 6-7 inches long, as if the baby was to stand as such. I know these sad things. But to even get to 12 weeks and see a picture of the baby, and then double that time, and then just go, no, get rid.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
So I think Watson's right in how far to go, but then on the other side of the scale, these people have just created a human life naturally, as is, and gone, ooh, it's a girl, you got a coat hanger lying around, mate, and they just get rid of it every time, and it's disgusting. And that's the thing as well. So I agree with selective
something other than a
eugenics.
coat hanger?
Well, a broom, like a plunger.
Just go to a clinic.
But like that's the thing with eugenics is basically it's, and like you said about Nazis, it gets back to cherry picking. Hitler thought we were blonde, blue-eyed, and we'd all basically Scandics big and strong but German. And it's a no. Although I can't not say that man, if he's found a way to prevent AIDS happening to people,
is he a genius? Yeah, I mean that's
because his argument would be, I suppose. Well, the argument for a lot of things in life is it all right to save 1 billion by killing 1 million?
Yep.
That's the train track quandary, isn't it? Where it's like 2 people are tied to a train track, the train's going there, and there's one other man tied to a train track opposite. You can divert the train, but you kill one to save 2. So the question is it right to...
It's a moral grey area.
Well, that's the question.
Isn't this a scientific progress issue as well? And it's also a war issue. You know, there's sacrifices in anything you do, and I'm not at the forefront of this, but like my argument previously was like, can we not focus on curing cancer? So if
Well,
something
that's
like
it.
that becomes a theory then of how to even foil cancer, if you become pre-cancer,
Can you imagine a world that we live in where none of that would happen?
We'll never be disease-free because the human body always is reacting to antibodies.
But it's like
isn't
cold, you'll never be resistant to
it?
cold.
Hay fever hasn't gone away.
Probably imagine being able to turn off hay fever.
I know.
Don't get it.
See,
Not an issue.
Lucky bastard.
there we go. Me and Stokes have probably got the gene that we could
Yeah.
if you went, the doctor went to you, hay fever, do you want to turn it off and you'd be like,
Yeah.
well yeah, because that's just unpleasantness.
Yeah, it's
to
an
be
irritant.
avoided.
But then there's an issue then. But I think the issue is basically if you get the notion of if we all get disease-free, we can all live forever and things, and it all gets a bit weird. It's not that. But I certainly think that if that man has genuinely found a cure for AIDS, or prevention for AIDS, not a cure, to make you AIDS-proof.
And that's what there's a gene. Apparently, they discovered there's a gene in some people that makes them highly resistant, not completely immune, but they just seem to be able to deal with it. And obviously, he was just like, I can't wait around for this. If it's, I believe it's going to work. I want to prove it.
Yeah.
But was he
To
going to
save
then?
lives.
Was he then going to give one of those twins
I don't think
AIDS?
so. It would have
Because
been
how
studied
can
under
you
a
prove it
microscope
otherwise?
to prove the gene he was inserting had been inserted into their DNA.
So there is a gene that exists that basically makes you AIDS.
Highly resistant to.
So it's come from someone. It's a natural thing that some people have.
He found it. Said, CRISPR's a technique of inserting a gene into the DNA. So basically, as soon as the babies are born, he'd obviously look at the baby, I'm assuming, just to see, is that DNA that I want to be there? And then, like, I don't know if he's gone as far as to try to give them.
So
does it affect? I mean, the thing is, then it's the moral aspect. Do the babies come out okay? Have they got any learning difficulties because he's done this to them?
Well, that's another grey area of they don't know, but he did it.
So are they only young? Are they?
Well, they're twins, and he claimed they'd been born, and that was the big scandal because he was.
So nobody actually knows.
So how do you
it's all
CRISPR? Is it something you inject in utero? Is it something you give to them? Is it a surgery? That's.
I think I'd have to do a bit more study.
I'm going to check this out.
It's quite
amazing.
It's CSPR, and it's known as this is a way of gene editing that's quite easy, but obviously we haven't fully understood the genetic code to the point of we know what everything does. But it's like you say, once you start on the sort of let's all agree some things need to be just get rid of, like Huntington's, cystic fibrosis, things
MS, shit like that.
Yeah.
Then you once you start that fire of it works, we should do it. There's a point where now you've opened Pandora's box, and it's minor things just get the line gets moved to
Yeah. Well, if you're getting rid of this, why is this still?
Yeah, I know it's only a minor inconvenience, but
Get rid of gingers.
Yeah.
No, we'd have one less pod member.
well, you can argue. You could argue. You could argue that case because we're not very good at. I can say as a fellow ranger. You can argue if climate change. The sun is our friend, so we've got to think about options here.
Don't even start to me on climate change.
Uh-oh.
Climate change.
Go on, you.
Well, okay,
you've got
so
a comment, haven't you, on this?
I did a little bit of research. Mm-hmm. So the main thing that I found was an article by NASA. Well, the first thing they started with is a chart that shows going back some 800,000 years the temperatures through various ice ages. So you've got parts per million of carbon dioxide, and throughout this 800,000 year period it's never been more than 300 parts per million as ice ages come and go through this massive span of time. You get to the Industrial Revolution and you get to the 50s is the key sort of mark on this graph, and it starts to skyrocket. So it goes up from 300 to just over 400. So bearing in mind that for some 800,000 years it has never been more than 300 parts per million of carbon dioxide, and then we industrialise and it goes up by over 100 parts per million.
By a third, yeah.
And then, since it's just got worse and worse, and we've got the technology to be able to analyse it more, you know, like with satellites and things to be able to see from space that we didn't have. So there is an element of, well, are we just like woke to it now and we can see it because we've got the technology? But the thing they back it all up with is they actually drill down into the ice sheet, like a really long, what do they call them, ice rods. So these things are really, really long, thin, smooth bits of ice that they actually drill out of the ice sheet. And what they can actually tell from that is by various like snowfalls, what kind of minerals or gases were in the atmosphere at that time as it settled on top, because an ice pack is literally just snowfall on top of snowfall getting pushed down and turned into ice.
That's cool.
And so what they can actually see in all these layers is what the climate was like at that time. And some of these ice shelves are ancient, you know, really thick, so they can go back. In fact, there was one picture where one of the rings inside this rod was black because it was a volcanic period where the volcano ash had landed on the snow and then it snowed on top and it, you know, pushed down and down and down through the ice pack.
That's cool.
So they can actually tell temperatures, all sorts of stuff from that. And this, you know, this NASA article was just summarising all of that and, you know, the trends in temperatures and what's happening with the coral reef. It's just mad. And because I've always been a bit on the fence, but I read that, and I know that's only one source, and I didn't do very much research at all.
You've done more research than me. But I'm still going to weigh in.
No, weigh in. I really want to hear it, because I couldn't believe that, what I was reading.
Well, it always used to be called global warming. Global warming was the buzzword for a while.
2 words.
Which meant that, you know, the planet is warming constantly. Planet is warming constantly. Oh, we're all in trouble. Oh, it's the hottest summer since... I remember it was 10 years ago or something that there was a big claim saying that the UK had the most tornadoes we've ever had since records began. It was like, well, how many did we have last year? And then how many did we have? No. This was 10 years ago, and it was how many we'd had over the year. And it was like, okay, so how many did we have the year after that? None. And they had to change from global warming because global warming had no actual stats to back it up. They changed and they called it climate change, and climate change is seasons. It's cold when it's cold. It gets hotter when it gets hotter, and depending on whether it's spring, summer, winter, autumn. And there are major issues, like deforestation is a very big issue because people are cutting down too many trees in certain parts of the Amazon, for instance, is losing way too much because it's not being governed. There's countries like Guatemala where it's lost a hell of a lot of its forest because there's no governance of it, there's no policies. And you get countries like Costa Rica, they became self-sufficient, didn't they, a couple of years ago? Because Costa Rica's a hell of a place. They're amazing people. They take school children out, they encourage them to plant their own trees. And you watch the line of them with the border, and you can see the actual difference in the border of where they're all green and they're all trees, and then the other side is just crops. And they have police that have to go in there and defend their borders from, just cowboys basically trying to grow crops.
We need that across the globe, basically.
Yeah. Well, they're wonderful. I mean, that's the sort of stuff, and, people they're cleaning up the ocean. That guy who invented that circular device to suck in water. Yeah. What that device has done for cleaning up the oceans is unbelievable. That should be the sort of person who's Time Magazine Man of the Year rather than a 16-year-old girl who's got an anger issue.
No, but that's kind of true. It's like that's the only way we might be able to combat it is with technology. We've got more technology now than we've ever had. We need to use it to try and not stop it, because there is definitely an element of it being the natural cycle of the planet.
Yeah.
We go to an ice age, we come out of an ice age. Yeah. It happens, and to be honest, I think there's one due, probably not in our lifetime, but it's coming, definitely. So
winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Every time we go to Game of Thrones.
Such a good segue.
That's a good segue.
Sorry, I was going to jump out at some point.
That's a good segue.
What was you saying?
Can I just say, Greta Thunberg got caught the other day with the old Corbyn where she was sat. She took a picture of herself on Twitter saying like, "On my way home for Christmas, on this congested train," and the train company chimed in and went, "And here's a CCTV of you sat on the floor in an empty carriage."
Yeah,
and it was in first class as well.
Yeah, well, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
It's bizarre
people like
how
that.
she's got such a voice lately. I know climate change. I think is a thing, but how she's now been given this absolute mega microphone. That she's the sudden mega. It is weird, a little weird to me how she's suddenly the biggest voice in the world on climate change.
Some people just get picked up by a media storm. It's a perfect cycle, and then they become like, you know, more than they can probably even handle, or more than they expected to.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people her age that probably are really passionate about it, but for some reason, whether it's wealth and connections, she's just been picked up, thrust into.
I'm not going to blame Time Magazine though, because they gave Hitler Person of the Year once too. So.
I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just saying that, you know.
She's just a very passionate young lady.
And she pulled the Corbyn, the old fake train story.
Yeah. Look how it went for him.
But Game of Thrones.
Segway, it's a segue, it's a segue.
We can make that a thing. Did we?
I think we might get sued for that one if anyone was listening.
No, South Park did it. Floppy Wiener or Floppy.
Yeah, but they've got more lawyers than we have.
They've got one. That's more than we've got.
Thanks for listening to the Shropshire Lads podcast. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, just get in touch on social media or email shropshireladspod@gmail.com. See you next time.